Hey everybody, good evening. I just want to say that I have been out of the loop for a while. Many of you know that my grandmother passed last week, and so it seems like every time I would go live or want to go live with the video, something would happen. So I was sitting there thinking, like, you know what? I do need to go live. I have a few products that I need to advertise. And thankfully, everyone is being very patient with us. But I thought, you know what? What better way to commemorate my grandmother and my channel or the next video than to commemorate my grandmother and to discuss how I feel about her. And let's talk about grief. The last time we cried, well, I haven't cried hard in a long time, and I think the very last time I cried hard was when my brother passed. That was a very hard blow, and this time, because it was sudden, it was a very hard blow as well. But I just want to say, you know what? I'm just thankful that God has been really keeping me. He's been keeping my family. And even though, you know, this has happened and it's a blow, I just want to say the key word that we're going to highlight tonight is time. It takes time to be able to grieve. You know, it hasn't even been a week. It's been 4 days, and, you know, the first few days I felt like my world was crushed and, you know, tumbling down and crumbling, and, you know, I felt torn, and I felt like, man, what am I going to do? And honestly, I was stuck for a few days, right? But I do want to say that for those of you who are grieving, I think you have to grieve. I mean, of course you're going to grieve for a while, but for me, my process was I had to really let it sink in for the first couple of days, right? When my brother died, it was like 2 weeks I had to let it sink in because this is somebody that I saw every day. With my grandmother, when I was living not too far from her, I would go visit her at least once a week. And then it's like, you know, everything just seemed to make me think about her. Everything. Going outside, like when it started snowing earlier, going outside made me think about her. Making bread made me think about her because she always wanted me to give her a good recipe, a good bread recipe at that. And she always wanted to try everything that I made. So cooking, then going outside when we were traveling yesterday to make some drops for some friends who weren't feeling that great. Smelling people that were burning firewood made me think about her in her house, and, you know, and how my grandfather keeps that house smoked out with firewood. I mean, just everything made me think about her, and just trying to pull it together, it's like, man, it's like grieving just makes you, it just puts you in another mindset. Then it's like you have to try to figure out, how am I going to move forward? Because even going to the post office, shipping off things, made me think, like, man, what am I? Because usually when my post office runs, I'm calling. Hey, Grandma, what's up? I'm just calling to check in on you. And I mean, honestly, my grandmother was my best friend. And I'm sure she was all of my aunt's best friends. But, you know, just calling to highlight some of the things that have been happening is like, I mean, even the day before she died, I'm like, Grandma, guess what? You know, we've been doing this and that, and, you know, trying to help people out, and she was listening, and we were talking, we had a conversation, even on her, you know, her last hours. So I want to say 2 things. Do not take for granted the people that are around you. Learn to bounce back. In this book that I'm reading, great book, guys. This is a very great book. It's called The Lost Art of Thinking. So Dr. Netley, wonderful author. I advise everyone who likes to read, you don't like to read, you're getting back into reading, this is a great book because it teaches you how to deal with people. It teaches you how to deal with your emotions. And I'm so thankful because, you know what? Now that I think about it, I've read this chapter before I found out about grieving. I think I just finished this chapter before my grandmother passed, unbeknownst to me. And it just teaches you how to deal with your emotions and how to deal with when you've been married and you bury someone, how to grieve after burying a spouse. It teaches you when you bury a child, how to, grieve after burying a child, the time period. I mean, reading is so fundamental at this point in time. It teaches you really how to deal with life. And experience teaches you how to deal with life. Had I not had a hard blow when my brother passed, I wouldn't know how to deal with my grandmother passing, right? These sudden, grieving, the sudden grieving. And so I do want to highlight, even though all of these things are happening to us, I'm not the only person that this is happening to. This death teaches us a lot about ourselves. And it's like the more that this happens to us, it teaches us how to kind of bounce back, right? Will you fully bounce back? No. It's been 23 years since my brother's been gone, and we have yet to fully bounce back. I mean, every Mother's Day, my brother died on Mother's Day. Tragically, he died in a car accident, tragically, and we have yet to bounce back all the way. I mean, you think about it, you get emotional, because here's what happened to me after my grandmother passed. My grandmother passed on Wednesday, so Thursday and Friday was more of the nevers. I'll never be able to call her again. I'll never be able to tell her good news. I'll never be able to pick her up and we'll go to the park, or we'll never be able to have date day. We'll never be able to share another function because my grandparents come to all of my functions, hands down. I mean, they may have missed one, but so you have to get through the nevers. And I think like after just, crying, I think I cried my eyes out. I don't even think I have any more tears left. I cried so much. But when you get through the nevers, how am I going to survive? Okay, I have to pick it back up because now I have other, my children could not stand it that I was crying. They're like, oh, you're crying again? Oh, mommy, you're crying. How long are you going to cry? So you have to realize that you still have to be there for your spouse if you're married, for your children. You still have to be able to be copacetic and functional, and at the same time, you don't want to be harsh on yourself. You don't want to be harsh. So once you kind of bounce back into reality and snap back, and thankfully, my husband's been very helpful during this time. It helps to have someone that's helpful who can help you through this time. And it's kind of hard because we don't live around everyone. So it's not like we can have a food train here. People can just drop food over, and it's kind of hard when you're the main cook. But I mean, thankfully my husband, he can cook. He can put some things together when he can. So that's helpful. But you know what? The more people, and thankfully, thanks to all of you who've been shouting us out and just calling and giving us your love on Facebook, period. Wherever, just calling and telling us that you love us, that's been very helpful during this process. But I do want to highlight the good things about Grandma, right? Because I probably won't be able to speak at the funeral. I just want to say, hey, why not let the whole world know how I felt about my grandmother. My grandmother, listen, it's really hard too because my grandparents will be married for like 69 years this coming March. Okay, this is March. This is year, 2022? So 69 years, that's a big deal. And I want to say that in my lifetime that I've known my grandmother was 85 when she passed. Let me tell you, She has been very consistent. For 69, 68 years, she has been fixing my grandfather breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for 68 years. That's a very big deal. And I want to say that's all. If I can highlight anything about my grandmother, I want to say she was very consistent. Very consistent. Let me tell you, my grandmother was very good to everybody. She was not only my grandmother, she was everybody's grandmother. Any and everybody. There was never a limit to how long you could stay at her house, how late you could call her, how long we could talk. Never. And she was very good to us, to everyone. And so one thing that I would like to highlight is consistency. She never turned people down. You were always welcome at her house. And she was oh my gosh, hospitable. Like, she would always, listen, she would give you her last. Even if she had a little saucepan, she would still give you whatever. Like, everybody would just come through. They have a lot of kids, so everybody would just come through and eat dinner with her and scoop up, we just scoop things together and eat together. It was great. She was the greatest person ever. When I got pregnant, before being married, of course, it wasn't looked upon as something that was great back then. And even though some people felt like, oh, I don't want to show up because we don't want to make it seem as though this is a good thing that, you had a baby before being married. My grandmother wasn't like that, period. My mother brought her to my baby shower. I think I was in 12th grade. And that just spoke volumes to me because she was not judgmental. I don't care how many tattoos you get. She just never judged us. Never. She loved everybody the same. And she was the queen of her home. And I just want to say, it pays to do right by your children. It pays to raise up your children in the fear and admonition of God. Why? Because all of my aunts and uncles took care of her. Even in death. Oh my goodness. Even in death, they have taken care of this woman. She was that good to everyone. That they took shifts. When she broke her hip last year, guess what? They went to the hospital and took shifts to make sure that she was covered and that nothing bad would happen to her while she was in the hospital. Oh my goodness. What a woman. Like the song says, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man, what a woman, what a woman, what a mighty good woman. She was the queen. I'm reminded of Proverbs 31. She was that Proverbs 31 woman. It was never a dull moment with she and I. I could pick her up. We would go out. I remember I bought some, I told her, I said, Grandma, come on, let's go. My aunts, sometimes they wouldn't want her to eat sugar. But I remember one time we snuck away, went to Burt's and got some ice cream. And, well, she had ice cream. I had like some cake and ice cream on top. The best cake ever, by the way. And I said, Grandma, listen, what happens in this van stays in this van. And she was like, all right, I won't tell. And so we had little moments like that. We would go walking on the trail and talk. And she was a prayer warrior. Oh my gosh. She was a prayer warrior. And I believe that the reason that, excuse me, the reason why my husband is here to this day is because of my mother and my grandmother's prayers. And those prayers, man, for years and years and years, she prayed that God will bless me with somebody. And those prayers, I tell you, the grandma's prayers. But the thing that I wanted to highlight about her was she was the queen of her castle. She was the queen. Listen, in a beehive, what do? They protect the queen, right? For those of you who are beekeepers out there, you make sure the queen is taken care of. You make sure that nobody gets next to the queen and that nobody harms the queen. That was my family, my aunts, my uncle, they make sure, my uncles, they made sure that nobody harmed the queen. And guess what? The queen took care of her hive. Facts. And my grandmother, she was that queen. She took care of her hive. Why do I say that? Because it's showing right now. 60 something. My oldest aunt is what? 60 something. So 60 something years later, she has did her due diligence by her children. So the word for tonight is, if you want to be taken care of, even though God takes care of you, but if you want your children to be there to take care of you, take care of your hive. Because guess what? That hive will make sure that nobody does any harm to you. That hive will have your back. That hive will make sure that you produce everything that you need to produce. Just like she produced food, she produced that honey, or helped to produce that honey. She held it down. She did that. But guess what? Behind every good woman is what? A great man. I want to say that too. And I don't want to neglect my grandfather. Shout out to my grandfather. If you ever watch my YouTube, I know you don't do social media, but guess what? My grandfather did his thing too, and he's still doing it. My grandfather made sure that he held it down. He was the disciplinarian. He held it down in the house, and she took care of the house, and she stood behind him. Not once. I have never heard my grandmother yell at my grandfather out of all the 68 years that they were married, and out of all the 30-something years that I've been living. I have never heard my grandmother disrespect him. She never talked back to him in front of anybody. She never put him down. She never made him look smaller than she never made him look small. Never. So these are some things that we can all jot down, ladies, men. These are some things that we can jot down from Grandma's legacy. Stellar woman. Absolutely stellar woman. I will never forget the legacy that she has left. And most important, the key thing out of all of it was that she was a praying woman. She was a praying woman. She prayed for everyone. And even when she went through her hip surgery, my mother said she would be up all night praying every day, because everybody had to rotate shifts to make sure that she was taken care of for a good month and a half. And let me tell you, she prayed. So make sure you pray. Always put God first. Never talk bad about people. Always see the good in people. Even if you don't see the good now. She saw the good in my grandfather. Listen, it's a testimony. My grandfather, before he was saved, was an alcoholic. But guess what? She prayed for 35 years that God would change his life, and that God will save him, and that God will take away the alcoholism, and that he would no longer be an alcoholic. And let me tell you, to this day, my grandfather made a vow to God that he would never drink again. And I tell you, it's been years that it's been years. At least like 60 years, maybe 50 something years that he was never, it's been a long time that he put the alcohol away. But let me tell you, God is a good God. And I'm just so thankful that I was able to see her before she passed. And it was sudden. And nobody knows what happened to this day. But guess what? I was able to see her. I'm sorry, my throat is dry. I was able to see her the day before she passed. I'm thinking I'm going to go down there and bring her some tea. And, just make her feel good. And, she wasn't sick. It was just her time. But I was able to say, Grandma, I love you. And she said, T-Shawn, I love you too. And that's closure for me, y'all. That's closure. So no matter how sad I may get in my times of being alone, and even though I'm vlogging, this right here is therapeutic for me. To just be able to vlog my feelings and to just be able to give some words of wisdom. Even my book. Oh my goodness. Like, I gave her my book. And she was like, oh, I want to support you and I want to pay for it. I was like, no, Grandma, you can't pay for my book. Come on. Like, here, take the book. Read it. Because you helped pray me through being able to get it out. So I'm just so thankful for that. These are like highlights in my life. Highlights. When I was my very last baby I had, she prayed me through having this baby. Because the baby almost didn't make it. Prayer. So I'm saying, like, my son was able to pray for her before she passed. And then we got word the next day that she passed. But listen, this is not a bad thing that this happened. This is great. Because We were able to talk to her, and I have closure. And I'm able to share with you the wonderful, stellar woman. She was the rock of everybody's Gibraltar. You know, I say, people say, oh, she was the rock of my Gibraltar. Let me tell you, she was the rock of everybody. I mean, anybody. If you see everybody that flooded my Facebook page, over what, 2,000 something people? Like, just everybody has flooded my Facebook page about how good she was to them. And she was everybody's grandmother. Even people that I went to school with, they still remember her. And they know how I felt about her. So as hard as it is to really be on here and share my feelings without being tearful and without breaking down, listen, God is faithful. Thank you for your prayers. They are really helping. We really appreciate you all. 100. So I couldn't think of one better way but to commemorate the queen of her hive, the rock of everybody's Gibraltar, by sharing this YouTube video. Not only will it reach the subscribers, but it's going to reach everybody, because the whole world will get to see how big and how special and how important she was to not only me, but to everybody. So listen, thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for your prayers. It's been hard. I mean, just sitting there in my pantry one day, just staring at the pantry, just looking at the pantry, because I'm like, what am I going to do? Your brain just gets foggy during that time. And then just crying and then laughing and crying and laughing again. I mean, it's really rough, y'all. But I just want to say thank you for your prayers. You know, it's hard. We have our days. One moment we're happy, the next moment we're sad. But this right here, like I said, is therapeutic. And thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you for, your calls and whatever you can do to, help my grandfather. Do the best that you can, because he's going to need, our prayers and our support forever. Really, forever. I mean, come on. What do you say to someone who's been married for almost 60, 68, 69 years, almost 70 years? Wow, that's deep. Almost 70 years married to one person. That just shows you the type of people they are right there. Some of y'all can't even hang for 3 years, 2 years, because the going gets tough. But to marry somebody and to stay married and to stay committed and to stay devoted for 68 years to one man, that's a lot. So these are just some of the things that we've learned about Grandma, and we really commemorate her tonight. I will always love her. Her memories will always be in my mind and my heart, and we will always carry them in everything that we do. Everything that we do, guys. So thank you so much for taking this opportunity to listen. It's not easy saying this right now, but I just want to say we're good. So thank you so much. Thank you. And I hope you guys have a good night. I love y'all. And we thank you for your support. All right. So if you want, share this video. I want as many people as you can reach to get a chance to understand who my grandmother was and the type of person that she was, and to just take some pointers here from her life that she lived, her legacy of just being sweet and kind to everybody. And she went through some really crazy things growing up, but guess what? She took care of her, and she even took care of her mother. How many of you want to really take care of your mother? Like, really? Like, say your mother didn't raise you, but you take care of your mother. Like, come on. Like, this is deep. This woman was deep. She lived a deep life. And so shout out to all my aunts and my uncles as well. If you ever look at this video, for your love, your support, your care, your honor for your mother. That speaks volumes. And I am forever grateful for the lifestyle that you have blessed my grandmother to have. To be able to travel. One of my aunts traveling with her every birthday. I mean, my grandmother has seen a lot just by just traveling with my aunt. I mean, going to all, the different, the four corners of the earth to just travel and just see life and live life. This lady had 10 kids and she lived most of her life for her kids. And all of her children are still living. And they all are respectful and they all love her. And they all still, they loved her, they love her. They still have, they're doing something in life. So come on. And all of her grandkids are respectful. And they just love life. So come on, y'all. Like, let's just get this video out. Let's share it. Let's touch people. They need to see that people can still be married for 68 years and be faithful. They need to see that you can raise 10 children and all of your children are respectful. That's the idea, that's the ideology. That is the backbone of grace and goodness, y'all. So let's get this video out. And as always, thank you for watching. Please share this video. This is our commemoration of Yvonne Butler. Share this video, please. Show the world how wonderful this woman is or was. And share with somebody who's struggling with grief and who needs to hear some encouragement. Because everybody seems to be passing all around us. But there's still hope. Like India Ari says, there's hope. It doesn't cost a thing to smile. Right? I don't even know the words. I ain't even going to go there. But what's the song? Mama, I love you. What does he say? Mama, I just want you to know loving you is like food to my soul. I love you. I never want to go a day without you. Hey, that's how I feel, right? But guess what? This is dedicated to my mother as well, because my mother is a prayer warrior and I love her. And I just want you to know, Mom, that even though Grandma has passed and she's resting in Jesus, I want to let you know that I love you as well. And I know that you're going to get through this because you love God and you're a prayer warrior. And I leave this for everybody else. Love God. Don't give up on him, because he'll never give up on you. And singing is also therapeutic. The song says, don't give up on God, because he'll never give up on you. He's able. And one more. When my back was against the wall, oh man, you made a way. 'Cause I'm standing here only because you move mountains. You cause walls to fall. With all power, perform miracles. And there is nothing that's impossible. And I'm standing here only because you made a way. So I'm standing here because God himself made a way for me to be able to be on here and talk, and to be able to talk about my grandmother who just passed the other day, and to give somebody hope that right now you might feel like your back is against the walls. You may feel like you are in the dumps, but God told me to tell you that even though you feel like your back is against the wall and it looks as if it was over for you, you might have lost your job, right? You might be faced with something, but he told me to sing and say, but you're standing here, but I'm standing here only because he made a way. You made a way. Because I felt like it was over in that minute, y'all. I felt like it was over. But God says, I move mountains. I cause walls to fall with all powers, perform miracles. And I'm standing here only because I made a way. God said I made a way for you. So don't be sad. This too shall pass, y'all. This too shall pass. We're in this together. We are in this together. All right? And he's making a way. He's making a way. What's another song that God put on my heart? What's the song? Somebody, I was going through a rough time. That lady said she prayed. She prayed for me. And she said, what did she say? I don't know. I can't remember what she said. But guess what? It ain't over. It ain't over until God says it's over. This too will pass. This too shall pass. It will pass. And you got this. We got this. We're in it together, guys. I'm not the only one who has experienced a significant loss. Okay? We're all in this together. All right? We're all in this together. And God is good all the time. And his mercies endured forever. All right? All right, guys. Well, look. I hope you were blessed. I love it, to be able to talk life into somebody. Singing is therapeutic. Talking is therapeutic as well. And expressing your feelings. So I hope you all have a good night. And until the next video, I got some things in store. So just keep us in prayer, guys. Keep us in prayer so that we can be able to highlight some good things that we got in store, all right? All right, guys. Love you so much and have a good night.